If you're looking at Tucson and trying to figure out where to live, there's a good chance Oro Valley has come up. For a lot of people, it feels like the safest choice. Clean, organized, and predictable. And in many cases, that's exactly why it works. But in my experience, that same structure is also why it doesn't work for everyone. I'm not going to rank Oro Valley against other areas. What I want to do instead is walk through how it actually feels to live here day to day, and who it tends to fit well and usually ends up feeling slightly off for over time. Because Oro Valley is one of those places where the difference between a great fit and a frustrating one comes down to lifestyle. Oro Valley tends to attract people who value structure, predictable routines, clean infrastructure, proximity to daily needs. It's more suburban than most parts of Tucson. It's more uniform and more planned. For a lot of families and retirees, that feels easy. For others, it can feel a little too controlled, and that's the trade-off. One thing Oro Valley does very well is it simplifies daily movement. Grocery stores are close, schools are relatively accessible, healthcare is concentrated on the north side. Compared to more spread out areas, you're usually not driving across town as often, and that reduces the friction. But it also creates a more contained daily loop. And from what I've seen, the people who like efficiency tend to thrive here. The people who prefer more variation sometimes feel like the routine is becoming repetitive. Another thing people notice over time is the community structure. Oro Valley has a higher concentration of families and retirees in similar life stages. That can make it easier to find your daily rhythm socially. But it's not as spontaneous as some older central neighborhoods. You're not necessarily walking into a highly mixed environment. It's more consistent. For some people, that consistency feels stable. For others, it feels less dynamic than they expected. The physical environment is another factor. You'll see more desert landscaping in Oro Valley. There's more open spacing and generally a quieter pace. Evenings tend to be calm. There's less density, less noise. And for a lot of people, that's exactly the appeal. But if you're coming from a more active, urban environment, that slower pace can feel more noticeable than expected. This is usually where I see the friction show up. A family moves to Oro Valley because everything looks right on paper. Good schools, clean neighborhoods, manageable driving. All of that is true, but over time, they realized they wanted a little more energy, a little more variation, or a different kind of social environment. Nothing is wrong, it just doesn't feel like the right fit. And that usually doesn't show up immediately, it shows up gradually. So when I talk with people considering Oro Valley, I usually suggest thinking about one simple trade-off: structure versus variation. Do you prefer predictable routines, organized infrastructure, and a more consistent daily experience? Or do you prefer more variety, more movement, and less structured environment? Oro Valley leans strongly towards structure. And for the right person, that makes life here feel easy. For the wrong person, it can feel limiting over time. Oro Valley usually doesn't create obvious problems. It creates subtle ones when your lifestyle doesn't match the structure. This isn't about Oro Valley being good or bad. It's about alignment. For families who want stability, for retirees who want simplicity, for people who value ease over complexity, Oro Valley can be a very strong fit, but only if that's what you actually want your days to feel like. If you're considering Tucson, this is usually the part to get clear on early. Not just where things are located, but how your daily life would actually function there. Because once your routine is built around a specific area, it's not always simple to shift it. If you want to think that through before you decide, I've outlined how to approach it below. Oro Valley works very well for the right person. The key is knowing whether that's you before you commit. Thanks for watching.